They took her badge, handed her a cardboard box, and told her she was finished. After 20 years of saving lives, Nurse Melline Jenkins was being dismissed for one unforgivable crime: defying protocol to keep a child alive. Broken, humiliated, and soaked by the cold Chicago rain, she believed her life was over. She was wrong. 2 military-grade Black Hawk helicopters weren't landing in the city by accident. They were landing for her. The fluorescent lights in the Human Resources office at St. Jude's Memorial Hospital buzzed relentlessly, a sound that seemed engineered to grind hope into dust. Melline sat stiffly on the edge of a gray fabric chair, the smell of stale coffee and disinfectant clinging to the air. Her hands were folded in her lap to hide their trembling. Those hands had started IVs in collapsing veins, inside moving ambulances. They had pressed bleeding arteries shut. They had held terrified parents together when words failed. But here, across from Dr. Marcus Sterling and Linda Halloway, the hospital's HR director, they felt suddenly useless. Insubordination, Linda said flatly, tapping her manicured nail against a manila folder. She didn't look at Melline, only at the paperwork, as if the paper itself were being fired. Gross misconduct. Violation of hospital hierarchy protocols. The list is extensive, Miss Jenkins. Melline swallowed. The recycled air tasted faintly of antiseptic. I saved the patient, she said quietly. The boy, Leo, he's alive. If I had administered the epinephrine when I did, while Dr. Sterling was still on the phone debating insurance authorization, that child would be in the morgue. Sterling shifted in his chair. He wore his stethoscope like jewelry, not a tool. The chief of surgery. His family name funded half the hospital. His ego filled the room. You undermine my authority, Sterling said smoothly. You are a nurse, Melline. An overpaid one, perhaps, but still a nurse. You do not make decisions. You execute orders. When you pushed past me to access the crash cart, you created a hostile work environment. I created a heartbeat, Melline snapped, her composure cracking. His airway was closing. He was in anaphylaxis. You were calling legal. That's enough, Linda cut in. The decision has been made. Dr. Sterling has requested your termination effective immediately. Your EMR access is being revoked. Security will escort you to your locker. Silence crushed the room. Sterling offered a small, triumphant smile, the smile of a man who had never been told no. You're making a mistake, Melline whispered. The only mistake, Sterling said, standing and buttoning his pristine white coat, was thinking you were indispensable. The walk to her locker felt like a funeral procession for her own life. 20 years. She'd started at St. Jude's at 25. She survived pandemics, understaffing strikes, budget cuts. She knew every janitor by name, every cafeteria worker's coffee order. Security guard Mr. Henderson, Fast Eddie, waited quietly. I'm sorry, Melline, he said softly. She emptied her locker into a small cardboard box. Her stethoscope. A framed photo of her late husband, Mark. A half-empty bottle of ibuprofen. A mug that read nurses call the shots. 2 decades reduced to a box that wouldn't fill a car seat. It's not your fault, Eddie, she said, forcing a smile. The trauma ward was silent as she passed. Nurses stared at the floor. They knew. If they spoke, Sterling would come for them next. The hospital wasn't a place of healing anymore. It was a kingdom, and the tyrant sat on the throne. The automatic doors slid open. Cold October rain slapped her face. Of course it was raining. She didn't have her car. Still in the shop, repairs she could no longer afford. She had 6 blocks to walk to the train station. Unemployed, alone, nowhere to be. Chicago moved around her without noticing. Taxis splashed dirty water. Umbrellas hurried past. Her sneakers squelched on wet pavement as her mind replayed the meeting over and over. Insubordination. Hostile work environment. She saw Leo again, 8 years old, gasping blue, clutching his throat. A bee sting. His mother screaming. Sterling hesitating. She pushed the epinephrine. The boy breathed, and it cost her everything. Maybe I should have stayed quiet, she muttered. Maybe I'm just an old nurse who doesn't know her place. 3 blocks from the hospital, On a bridge over the Chicago River, the air changed. The pavement vibrated. Puddles rippled. Storefront glass rattled. A deep, rhythmic thunder rose above the city. Thwop, thwop, thwop. People stopped. Phones came out. Traffic slowed. Melline looked up. The clouds split apart. 2 matte black UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters tore through the sky, banking low between skyscrapers. Not news helicopters. Not police. Military. The downdraft hit like a punch. Trash cans rolled. Umbrellas snapped. People screamed and ran. But Melline didn't. She froze and assessed muscle memory from 20 years in trauma. The lead helicopter hovered, then descended. Not to a helipad, not to an airport, but directly into the intersection. Its skids kissed the asphalt with surgical precision. The second helicopter hovered overhead. A sniper was visible in the open door. The side door slid open mid-descent. 3 soldiers jumped out. No insignia. Tactical gear. One carried a tablet instead of a rifle. He scanned the crowd, dismissed one face after another, then locked onto her. Soak scrubs. Cardboard box. He pointed, then sprinted. Melline stepped back, heart pounding. What did I do? Did Sterling call the police? The soldier reached her in seconds. Madeline Jenkins, he shouted over the rotors. She nodded. Asset located. He barked into his earpiece. Extraction confirmed. He grabbed her arm. I was just fired, she stammered. I don't work here anymore. If you need a doctor. We don't want a doctor, he snapped. And we sure as hell don't want Sterling. Her breath caught. The president's goddaughter is dying, he continued. Crushed airway. Secret Service can't stabilize her. 3 surgeons named you as the best pediatric thoracic trauma nurse in the Midwest. For minutes, drop the box, he ordered. My husband's picture. He scooped up the box without hesitation and lifted her off the ground. Then the box comes to. She was thrown into Black Hawk as the rotors screamed overhead. The door slammed shut. Lift off. The helicopter surged upward. Melline stared out the rain-streaked window as St. Jude shrank below her. Her career already a memory. Captain Miller strapped her in and handed her a headset. I'm sorry for the extraction, he said, but we're out of time. Where are we going? She asked, adrenaline burning through her veins. O'Hare Air Force Reserve Base. Air Force One is waiting. Her hand stopped shaking. Give me the vitals, she said. Is she intubated? Miller blinked, then smiled. That's why we came for you. The Black Hawk didn't so much land as it dropped from the sky. The pilot flared the rotors at the last possible second, slamming them onto the rain-slicked tarmac of the O'Hare Air Force Reserve Base. The doors flew open before the skids fully settled. Melline's stomach was still somewhere over the Chicago River, but her mind had snapped into something colder, sharper. The trauma state. The place where fear, money, humiliation, and ego ceased to exist. There was only a patient. Go, go, go. Captain Miller shouted, unbuckling her harness. Melline jumped down into a puddle of rain and jet fuel. The noise was overwhelming. Engines shouted commands, alarms, but she moved through it like a blade through water. They ran past massive C-130 transports and the looming white silhouette of Air Force One, heading straight for a brightly lit hangar surrounded by armored SUVs. Inside, a wall of Secret Service agents blocked the entrance. Hold it, one shouted. The manifest lists Dr. Sterling. Sterling is compromised. Miller barked back. This is the asset. I can't let an unauthorized civilian. Melline stepped forward. Agent, she said loudly, her voice cutting through the chaos. The patient has a crushed airway. Oxygen saturation was in the low 80s 5 minutes ago. That means hypoxic brain injury is happening right now. She met his eyes. You can check my clearance, or you can let me say her brain. You have about 30 seconds. The agent stared at her, then stepped aside. Get her in. The hangar was a battlefield. A mobile field hospital sat in the center, lights blazing over a small, motionless body. Monitors screamed. Blood stained the floor. I can't get the tube in, shouted a graying flight surgeon. Too much swelling. Satzer 68, a nurse yelled. She's bradying down. Melline dropped her box and ran to the bedside. The patient was a little girl, no older than 8. Her neck was swollen and purple. Her lips blue. Stop, Melline said. It wasn't a request. The surgeon looked up. Who the hell are you? I'm the person who's going to tell you that you're digging into a shattered airway, Melline said calmly. You keep trying to intubate orally and you'll tear what's left. She pointed. Subcutaneous emphysema. Air's leaking. Her trachea is transected. The surgeon swallowed. I can't find the landmarks. If you miss, Melline said, you hit the carotid. She bleeds out in 10 seconds. The monitor slowed. Beep, beep. Give me the scalpel. You're a nurse. I'm a trauma nurse, Melline said, extending her hand. And I've done this in parking lots. Give me the scalpel. The surgeon hesitated, then slapped it into her palm. The hanger fell silent. Melline closed her eyes for 1 second, visualized the anatomy, felt through the swelling until her fingers found a tiny ridge. I have it. She cut horizontal, precise. Suction. Blood cleared. Tube. Size 4. She advanced it slowly, twisting, feeling resistance, then the give. Bag her. Nothing. Mucus plug. Melline snapped. She suctioned again, pulling out a thick clot. Bag her again. The chest rose. We have breath sounds, someone shouted. The numbers climbed. 70, 80, 98. The little girl's lips turned pink. Melline sagged back, hands trembling as she secured the tube.